Yeah, and who've been able to stay alive. And here they are, like their medication has been stopped, and they're slowly dying. They're, so
it's a sad story. Yeah. I mean, take it from her. I mean, she works in the medical field. Think about all of these doctors and all these people working in the medical field like Alicia that are sitting here and they can't do anything for the patient because this funding's being ripped from them. And, in a war where resources are being depleted, those who are weak die. It's called social Darwinism. It's called the weakest will die and the strongest and the richest will live. The haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots will be the casualties of the war. I'm looking right now at a room full of have-nots. And I don't know how long you're going to have not before you start realizing that the haves are going to keep grabbing from you everything you have. Yeah, pretty much. You're pretty much being harvested for the things that you love the most. And if that means people that are around you, the people that you love, I mean, when I heard that this girl in question killed herself, I was floored. This girl, I mean, you can go to my MySpace and see her. She is the most beautiful person you would ever know, outside and inside. But she couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't take it on her own. She had to have help, and that help was pulled out from underneath her just because she couldn't afford to buy her goddamn antidepressants. Now, her freedom was taken from her. Her freedom to live a good life was taken from her, and so she chose to die rather than live like that. This is where it gets down to the wire, people. This is where, I mean, it may not affect you now. It may not affect you now, but it'll affect you eventually, and someday you'll wake up and you'll say, maybe I should do something. Maybe I should say something. Maybe I should stop watching cops on television pounding in some guy's door and stop having this happen. I don't know how many times I watch TV and I see police brutality going on TV. I know the cops are going to get off. Because people will say, well, he was doing the crack. The police felt threatened. And you don't know what it's like to be a police officer. No, I don't know what it's like, thank you. But you know what? I made the choice to do something else. They chose to be police officers. That is what they choose. If they don't want to be shot, knifed, or kicked in the nuts, fucking find another job. Go work at where I work. Go work at a fucking phone center if you don't want to be out there helping people. That's your fucking job. You chose it. And I'm sorry that it gets ugly, but all jobs get ugly. Sewer guys have to dig shit out of pipes, okay? People have to bury people, okay? There's shittier jobs out there, guys. And if you freak out and if you punch the shit out of some kid because you think he's going to hurt you and you're wrong, then by God, start fessing up to it. That gut feeling that Chertoff talked about, yeah, that gut feeling is there. It's been there for a long time. It's at the terror threat level of throw up. There's a red level. It's called barfing your fucking guts out because you know fucking well that it's going to happen. We're right on the verge and it's going to happen soon. Because we don't need them to tell us that. We knew it all along. We knew it all along. Go ahead.
I know we talk a lot about how the Democrats and Republicans are all the same, but they do respond to contact. So I think if we do pick up the telephone and call their offices, the more calls they get that say we need fucking health care paid for by the government, by our taxes, just like all the other 27 industrialized nations of the Western world, we're the only one that doesn't provide health care for our people. And so we let our people die.
When my mother died in January, she was 64 years old. She had cancer. My mother died in January when she was 64. I heard this. She was so young. She was so young. I've been hearing that a lot lately. He was so young. She was so young. Young. You know why they were so young? It's not that they were so young. It's that they were so poor. They couldn't afford to get the right health care. They should start saying it for what it is. If he dies at 45, it's because he couldn't afford to get his fucking self fixed up. My God, Keith Richards is alive, for Christ's sake. He can afford to look like a goddamn corpse. That guy's a miracle. I walk around sometimes huffing and puffing because I don't know whether or not I'm feeling well. It's because I'm a fat ass. I'm getting fatter. But the reason why I sit there and I think to myself, my God, this guy is propped up and he can play guitar and still rock and roll. He looks like he's dead. And my mom dies at 64. This guy's looks like 103. This girl that I knew died at 21. She was so young and so poor. She was unable to fight those things that were bigger than she was. And at the end, everybody said, I wish we would have known something. I wish she could have reached out. But when your arms are so small and no one can see those arms reach out, are they really reaching out? Do you really see them? Do you pay attention to those little arms? Do you pay attention to those little children that are reaching out and saying, help? Because this is the world they're getting. 20, 30 years, maybe less, because I'm so young. I'm going to end up not knowing because these kids are going to have to take the reins of a brave new world. This is that brave new world. And if you think it's bad now, thank God we don't have to be around to see it when our kids have to take it over. Isn't that nice? That those loved children from the 60s are in power now, and they had all sorts of ideas on how they were going to change the world, and this is where we are. I think we should start living up to what that was. We need to pay attention. And if it's not affecting you now, it will affect you. You heard Alicia tonight. It affects her every day when she has to put patients on dialysis. A friend of mine died a couple days ago because she couldn't get her medication. And we're worried about whether or not Victoria and Beckham are getting out of a limo. And we're paying attention more to whether or not Cindy Sheehan is going up against Nancy Pelosi. We give a shit more what Hillary Clinton said yesterday and whether or not Mitt Romney promotes porn at the Marriott Hotel. We need to start looking out for each other. I could give a fuck about those people who are the haves when all of my friends, neighbors, and everyone around me are the have-nots. I'm Clyde Lewis. This has been Ground Zero Lounge. Good night. We'll see you next week.